Greetings. It is my pleasure to present to you Chapter 14 from the story Poppy. Chapter 14, On the Way to Newhouse. The old porcupine moved faster than Poppy thought possible, body swaying from side to side, quills rattling like a snare drum. The trail Eric took was narrow but smooth, avoiding hills, tangles, and fallen trees. From time to time, Poppy saw other animals, weasels, a raccoon, a ferret, and once a bear. As soon as they caught sight of Eric, they hurried away in haste. Poppy bounded along after Eric, pausing now and again to gaze upon the endlessly enticing forest with delight and amazement. In low places, white ground mist eddied gently, while above, in the high trees, the early sun sowed golden sparks among dark leaves. But once, while Poppy was staring wide-eyed at a particularly towering tree, she caught sight of what appeared to be a brown blur swooping among the pines. Her joy melted. "I think Mr. Oakax is following," she called to Eric. Eric, however, did no more than grunt and press forward. Poppy caught up with him and from then on stayed as close as possible. But with every third step, she glanced back. Finally, she actually saw Mr. Oakax. He was high above, gliding through the treetops on widespread wings like a silent phantom. "He is following!" Poppy cried. "Bug brain," Eric mumbled. Then, no matter how much Poppy searched, her neck grew strained from so much turning and twisting, she lost sight of the owl. At last, she decided he had gone. More relaxed, she paused now and began to take in the forest views. It was while she stopped to sniff a Scotch broom plant that Mr. Oakax, out of nowhere, made a dive at her, talons flashing. "Oakax!" Eric bellowed. Without looking, Poppy leaped toward Eric for protection. The porcupine, for all his bulk, whipped about and lifted his tail, prepared to strike with his quills. Mr. Oakax pulled up, short, and hissing venomously, flew aloft and vanished. "That was close," Poppy panted. She was trying to see where Mr. Oakax had gone. "What made you notice him?" "Poppy, if you think there's anything that's going to keep me from that salt, you don't know me." Once more the porcupine trundled along the trail. "Eric," Poppy panted, straining to keep up, "I'm certain Mr. Oakax wants to keep me from Newhouse. There must be something he doesn't want me to see." Eric stopped abruptly and gave a snort. "Poppy, some creatures aren't worth trying to figure out. If they bother you, what I say is, swat them with your tail." "Eric, not every tail has quills." "You're right. I shouldn't hold yours against you," he said off again. "Eric," Poppy said after a while, "if you could just find out what is that Mr. Oakax is frightened of and tell my family." "I wouldn't care what happened to me," Eric laughed sarcastically. "Even if it kills you?" "Well, no. But, Poppy, if you don't stay alive, the only thing you'll be good for is maggot mash." As they traveled farther, Poppy noticed that the trees were growing less dense. There were greater varieties of flowers, too. All as the brightness intensified, Poppy guessed that they were reaching the northern limits of the forest. "Eric," she said, "when we get out of the woods, where will we be?" "First there's a dirt road and an old barn, then a field of corn. Beyond the field is some low grass, then the buildings where the people live. There's also a new big barn. That's for chickens." "What are people like?" Poppy asked. Other than pictures in the magazine back home, she had never actually seen any humans. "They don't bother me." "Do they dance a lot?" "What's dancing?" It's gliding and swirling and dipping and sliding with someone you like. You are strange, the porcupine said. Now don't try to distract me. On the short grass, not far from the cornfield, is the salt lick. You figured a way to get it for me yet? Eric, I haven't even seen it, Poppy answered. It's beautiful, Poppy, Eric murmured. Really beautiful. They had reached the northern edge of Dimwood Forest. Beyond the last of the trees, Poppy saw a dirt road. Even farther was a dilapidated barn, smaller than Gray House and considerably older. It stood on the edge of the field, leaning over slightly. The field itself was full of tall stalks, bearing plump and tasseled ears of corn, tossed by a gentle breeze. Row upon row rustled and whispered with heavy lightness. Eric trotted across the dirt road. Come on, move it, the porcupine scolded. Once he looked back and saw Poppy on the other side. I'm checking for Mr. Oacax, Poppy called, cross, though since the owl's one attempt to grab her, she had not seen him. Deciding he was either gone or hiding, she darted across the dirt road and rejoined Eric. Let's go, the porcupine cried and plunged into the cornfield, beating his way through the stiff stalks. Poppy paused now and again in his wake to snack on fallen corn, which lay about in great quantity. Compared with the fallow fields, the mice scoured near Gray House, the profusion of food where here was a marvel. Back home, the food the family had access to took long hours to find, and there wasn't that much of it. Here was food enough to feed a family twice their size. Was it this rich field that Mr. Oacax wished to hide? Did he want her family to go hungry? All that searching for food out in the open did make them more vulnerable. There! Eric cried when they finally burst through the far side of the cornfield. Look! Poppy sat up. Before her was a neatly cropped grass lawn. Not far from them stood a smooth and shiny pole as high as a cornstalk. It was capped by a large block of white salt. Isn't that something? Eric whispered. Poppy glanced at her friend. He was drooling. Now that Poppy could see what she had promised to bring Eric, her heart sank. How in the world would she be able to do it? It was perfectly clear that even if she managed to get the salt off the pole, it was too huge for her to carry. The problem itself was too huge to carry. With a sigh, Poppy looked farther. Beyond the salt lick was a white house. It bore some resemblance to Gray House, but its paint was bright and its windows were newly curtained. Signs that suggested that people were living there. Was this what Mr. Oacax didn't want them to know about? Poppy turned to the left and saw a red barn. It was considerably larger than the house, but had only a few windows. The roof was highly pitched and covered with sheet metal. At the front end of the barn, the roof jutted out to form a door hood. Poppy gasped. Sitting right below the overhang near a large closed window was an owl twice the size of Mr. Oacax. This is the end of chapter 14. Press stop.